Hello, America. There's a there's a corner of a street that where it doesn't have a stop sign, it just turns into another street in my town near a park. And there's a little path that goes away from the park. And on and off parks in other cities, there's a method /S exploiting locations the same way computers work, because they have to work. The way it's exploiting the human value/value progression, we are identity. And this is where, originally instilled, recorded clear as day, the branches of government were left by our founders with their identity stolen so we can't use correlation. They were forced to words in layers. Too much. Uses of criminal and ceaseless natures of positive and of negative, and of other people's names, and of their own titles and identity, ground, locations, industries, identities. We're in a semi-ancient trap that came since before modern religion's messengers. Debates on that, and what they call civil in relationship to that, is in that sustained, worse than breaking method that is against everyone. When they say there are victim predators who say that who bring up how our founders had roles with slavery, per them, but not, our founders wanted us to understand what they left us to correlate. That's why, in other words, this was an entrenched method that had already been sustained and was already using people's self-valued, self-defended victim reactions as fact-cheap in nature. Defending that as naive uses of positive and of negative treatments, of premises treatments, of sequence treatments, of sequence, finite, active, progressive, fact treatments, truth treatments, positive treatments, and identity, where and how it is a semi-nature relationship to that which revealed bound individuals, grouped areas, ages, sexes. For example, difference in relationship to the invisible but still discernible. What is simultaneously value? It's the invention, the identity that inventions work or not in relationship to it. They are further positive or not in relationship to it. Criminal insidiousness is proof that positive truth, sequence, happening doesn't mean that's the sequence happening. In other words, the identity of the sequence nature. So when I was a kid, and as an adult, there's a Joe Aiello or someone claiming to be on him on Facebook, but that's recorded anyway, who's involved with a Michael Kerr and with the DeMoro family, and with people with Officer Jerry Miller. I don't know if it's a real officer, but these are also people all along Route 3. It has something to do with on-off campuses they're involved with. Like, for example, they lied to some girl. These are people that I don't know. They sought me out to make confessions. And people I don't know at all, and people that I barely know. And then they had timed things in the past with the uses of a park as people that were involved with their roles with CCSU in New Britain. This is a park in Wethersfield. But there's also a park in Newington. There's other parks. Because this is where and how there's the victim predators, individual branches. That's evidence. They have methods pretending other. They have motivations pretending other that are leaving out actual identity of sequence true. Because they have roles with uses of locations to hide things offensively in relationship to the vertical and horizontal. That was like when I was in middle school. And I don't know one woman's name when she was a little girl. which is one time. And I don't know who that was when they walked by me and said something. But that's also connected to the people at Trinity College, who also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated that a Joshua Stryker is involved with their predicate acts and their roles with sequence shifting, forging, switching names, and pretending passions and emotions in relationship to their treatments of their takes on people's behavior, including online, because these are people involved with people on the child sex offender registry, also with a pattern of predicate acts with people who answer the phones at police department through time. And Wethersfield Police Department's police chief's family recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with people tied to Jonathan Mayano, and with a Lombardo family. Well, I don't know them either. Also with officers forging and switching names. They said the Colello family's involved with it. But they're also saying, pretending they don't really, in other words, they have town offices involved with it. Has something to do with how they have roles with Asian countries and Afghanistan tied to the Wethersfield Library, and other foreign and domestic doctors and their medical family and their family members involved with drugs, crimes, medicine crimes, fake conversations with people, fake ties to people into databases. Now it has ties to do. There's also the Fox Connecticut News, downtown Hartford, and there was a school there that has a Perone family associated with the people at Central Connecticut State University, like two Perone brothers. I don't know them. I never had a personal conversation. In other words, I mentioned exceptions that were set up, and they all have ties to the people involved with predicate acts with Hartford courts, New Britain courts, Connecticut courts, and identity ground locations. In other words, they're pretending that the courts can't get sued, where and how they had also roles with the depositions of the people leading up to and in a 2006 case, and with ones leading up to and in the Ninth Circuit Court right next to the World Trade Center, right before the attack. So these are people tied to the World Trade Center, tied to a Kerr family, and they have, and the DeMauro family. They have a Mike Kerr and a Joe Kerr, a Joe DeMauro. They have older brothers, a John DeMauro and a Jerry Kerr. One of the Jerry Kerrs and one of the Joe DeMauros involved with predicate acts that are inter-campuses and intra campuses, and with elections locations. And these are people I don't know that sought me out. They made to make exceptions. When there were exceptions, in other words, there were other things at the same time, because they pulled the courts and the police forms, and former director FBI was one of the co-defendants involved with the Don LaConch. I never saw her around on a party. One time I saw her in Haddam, and I never had a word of conversation with her. In other words, it was recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, involved with people making confessions since I was in grammar school about their roles with private school kids and intercampuses and people that aren't in the same classroom, where you only can know people through others. And you don't know the people who are telling you, because they're seeding that stuff because they want to make it come back to courts that are already, they've been lying every day. They're pretending they don't like liars to themselves and to others as victims. They really don't lie. No one likes liars. But liars coming up to people offensively to pretend other people are liars, that they can't be honest about how they came up to people. They can't be honest about how the identity ground locations are being used. For example, in relationship to the sequence shifts, in the identity thefts and frauds, and educational impositions, and worse than extortion, identity thefts and frauds, And so now we have lawyers that are delusions raw also with the interbranch and the private tie to them. And it has ties to this. In other words, these Mark and Kevin Corona, I never saw them on Wethersfield Park but one time. And that was the time, and there was a Justin Klavinskis and a Mark Violet, and they're all supposed to be were boyfriends of hers, like intimately, per everyone speaking through other. But then she sent me. In other words, they pretend to film things. That's what's actually recorded. Now they also have that tied to the Town Line Drive, that corner over there, and there's a like where Dakota's is, and we're like, you know, the shopping centers with different businesses, regardless of the business, like the strip malls, the regular malls. These are people with military families. And the Mogman is the only girl's name. I know I never had a class with her. I never had a conversation with her. She was involved with prosecutors, judges, overt criminal enterprises involved with their families. And how they keep the boys and girls exploited distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, and then making them self-value that in relationship to the recorded, individually grouped and together, tactical impositions upon the sciences, and as their opinions and convictions regarding it. So the proofs of it are in relationship to the wire crime acts and methods with the campuses, like the Principal Child Offenders campus. There's a Mike Levine, and our other people's names recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. There's also people with this name KNERR involved with the KERR family, with all along Route 3 are people involved with sequence shifts and with sustained predicate acts with databases and with impositions on people's education, then them pretending to have opinions, but they forge and switch names. They time people, so they use like a path going out of a park. And they use like the ground logistics, where they have fake sides. In other words, so there was a Mike Kerr came out with a bat, and and it was a Mogman girl. I saw that in a yearbook. I didn't even, and per people saying her name. I never saw her around. I never was in a location. These are people with the database involved with off campuses maintained, on off campuses roles self-valued as liars, calling other people liars. And then they keep groups invested this way. I never had a personal conversation with the girl who asked me to Sadie Hawkins dance. One of the only reasons I went is because of the confessions regarding the middle school, with people that weren't in my middle school class, and that was involved with also preventing and having prevented me from using how good of an evidence it is that, and how the value of the identity of Native Americans first, and the value of simultaneously everything. You know, the value of like how that there were criminally foreign influence zoning laws. There were criminally foreign influence precedents and statutes and syntax of as humanity as fact-keeping nature, as a syntax nature, where and how we are database location relationships, where we were and how we are locations as a value/value progression. So there was a Tim O'Brien I never had a class with in grammar school, And I found out that people that lived next to the schools and business next to the schools, I went, in other words, before that, also locations next to them have houses, have connections to this and uses of that were I missed. And this is the effectively maintained outcome /S, and really what propagated wars, to keep everyone, from discorrelation, from using. See, it is what will only stay positive unto itself demonstrates negative value nature progressions, acts and natures, when the laws that were entertained per that breaching method that was already effective since before England was its first sophistication. It was already in a semi-ancient trap that had in the identities of nations as syntax nature, as physical positions, now individually grouped, and so therefore the entire species, not only extorted, fact, cheapened, nature, enslaved. Through this filter, through this method /S, as how computers work, where and how you have to understand where and how identity works first. Identity is sequence nature. One identity of science /as science /S is demonstrably only making more of its identity of forever nature /S through temporary value nature. Only the extent of it is debatable, and who debates the other side of this has to use criminally foreign influence premises treatments and then defend that, then valuing further and further how individually grouped in together, sickly distinctly. All modern nations do that. Suits and ties, counters, leaving out the required sophistication, the required civility, the required counter to lack of civility, all in collusion, as criminal insidious natures of truth tellers, of positive tellers, of identities of titles tellers, locations, industries tellers. All, if you say that, the markets will go down. This is at the end of not just a whip of that method /S. No one's going to deny the method, so then everyone became the methods as a breaching screen, as breaching tools, as breaching weapons, as breaching identities, as breaching names, as breaching uses of other people's names, out of sequence self-value. So I don't know the extent of it, but I can show you more than the people that know the extent of it more than I don't know. In other words, there are people at Trinity College in Central Connecticut State University and UConn, I didn't even go to UConn, that are involved with predicate acts. Now, these are also lawyers fabricating audio and video with the judges and prosecutors and their family members. And where and how they are victims, we have. There is also because of the breach of predicate acts delivery system method /S, which is the subject. Now, they also pretend that I make conspiracy theories against the government with a Dr. Brendan Leahy, and with his son. I think he's a doctor too, Brendan Leahy, and he has brothers. I never had conversations with any of them. Now, his father 3 times, and his son and brothers, they were involved with people on the child sex offender registry, who are also involved with my town's police chief and people who answer the phones for the police department, with predicate acts with them through time, on campuses and off campuses. and with the people further involved with the Facebook, with the on-off the principal child offenders campus before he got caught and then, and with the Dillon family. There were a whole bunch of people tied to the Dillon family that are also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with pretending passions and emotions per their roles with identity theft, sequence shifts. This is against people. This is on a mass scale. People need to respond to things. It's going to sound like you know these people. Oh, they went to your schools. The courts and the police forms as victim predators need to hide more and more that all the from proofs of that. Where and how little kids like me, I would have been able to tell in grammar school better than they have told since founding, many ways, about how you have to just understand how the Native Americans were hurt by this breaching method first. You know, were hurt by this, I would have, you know, by this method. And that's what made everyone be that evil. And our founders, I didn't know enough about, in other words, all you have to do is know about positive and negative. That was fake. There's a fake theater, positive and negative, that people are pretending passions and emotions. Well, they're going, well, this is what we do in this case. This is what the book tells us. And the more they did that, the more they do that, the more they value that having been done. And the more that is already being and having been exploited. Not just on the locations where database and people speak into people who record the database. In other words, since before computers. So I don't know the Mogman girl, but she's recorded, confessed, and demonstrated in the past involved with the people over the past 4 months, switching names and forging names. There's also a Sullivan family I never met. Growing up, and then when I was in 6th grade, they were recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Years later, they were involved through time with people with child abuses on intercampuses of each age and nature, and with people that are tied to the locations next to campuses, where and how investigations and investigators and identities of the law were our evidence, being and having been self-valued, criminally foreign influenced, with overt criminal enterprises. The older brothers of and the family members of the DeMorrow family and of the Kerr family. See, now the DeMorrow family associated with the policing of Town Line Drive and the shopping center there through time, and the policing of and use of the identity of the ground. That's on off Town Line Drive in that mobile gas station at the end of the street. There's a Schedule family down the street from them, next to where I went to grammar school. I never had anything to do with the Schedule family. Him and other boyfriends of a girl Sandra Spada. I never had in other words, I recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. Involved with a Delafair family, involved with judges in their family that are involved with identity theft, fraud. They have people act fake sides of sequence shifts, cover up live aggressions per their roles with predicate acts through kids, and with criminal insidiousness used simultaneously, sickly, distinctly. They kept everyone self-valued roles back because of how they have mayors involved. They have a former mayor of Gold, who had through time her daughter and others attached me to fake locations. I mean, fake sequence natures, fake communications with her. Fake, because they have roles with behavior crimes. And with where they're pretending illusions for were only other motivations. Where and how they are involved with the predicate acts. With the people, with markets and musicians and stuff such like that, where that stays inseparable from the inseparable subject, like of slavery, where how it's positive that negative, that nature itself demonstrates negative value nature progressions. It won't stay. It will force our value from here, Leaf of IDs. You don't have to believe that. It will force space nature transfer, value transfer. That's what's changed about the environment. The environment is now being run by cheap identities of the ground, locations, experts, titles, names, opinionators, and convictions of everyone. Fakes, arrays of fake sides of correlation nature and of defenses of that offensively. Of offensive needs to pretend integrity to themselves and others. Per this method that is the /S regarding each age of fact cheaping nature simultaneously. So we're going to break down into the 5 parts. Education. But we need to have mandated law followed immediately where prosecutors and judges and where overt criminal enterprises and people that work for stores and on ground locations and that work with the kids. There's another guy's name I don't know the name of yet. John Mayano knows it. But he's involved with their family. With prosecutors and judges, with predicate acts, I don't know if the Wethersfield Community Center, and with people that sequence shifted all kinds of different ways, where and how the judges and prosecutors are victims, but they have to show how they're victim predators, which is where their recorded uses of the identity of the ground locations. You know. So, in other words, that was involved with that. There were judges and prosecutors involved with girls with a park, who made it look like I knew the people next to them. And all exceptions, exception nature, are in demonstration of the same thing. Those are the same people that are involved with predicate acts with various police intercities. They switch and forge names, switch fake sequences, fabricate audio and video. And they pretend they make police mistakes with the police reports, so you never get a police report. And then you get one that has changed from they switch officers' names, they switch their proofs names, and they'll leave out the rest of it. So if you talk about that, they're leaving out the rest of it. Like there's a Phil Cololo, also. There's a Bob Chase. He's recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved identity theft frauds and predicate acts on my street with a Bob Chase and with the officers with the Wethersfield town offices. No elections. Through administrations. They hid this from the Obama administration. They recorded forced to self-value roles with it. Also, per how they have shock and awe treatments of what slavery is about. They have to pretend others. They have to pretend it's about voting. These are sick parties. These are sick alternatives. These are defenses of criminally foreign influence premises treatments, sequence treatments, finite, active, progressive, and identity treatments distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. When they are not tried true, but they're pretending they're true always, that's a standing criminal in its nature. I'm not a lawyer. Positive is about what is really positive, what is really the value of sequence true before the order of the finite. Even since before matter was generated, it's only the extent of it is debatable. That's what that is. What is in demonstration to us is most probable. I mean, is how we are manifest. There's not just an order /S. I taught best. It is making more of its identity of volume, as of an identity of forever nature. Only the extent of that is debatable again. Premises treatments. So these are people with Central Connecticut State University, also with the uses of Trinity College's name, where the college is supposed to be run by people not forging and switching names and pretending sequent passions and emotions. in relationship to that. Now, these are judges and other family members involved with off-campuses related predicate acts as wrongdoing roles, and or if not as predicate acts roles too. Like, for example, all along Two Route Highway, where it runs into Hangdog Lane, and where it runs into the Berlin Turnpike before the heart of Hartford, right down the street from Trinity College. That perpendicular to Two Route Highway, which runs straight into the Hangdog Lane. Now, there are houses on Hangdog Lane that are recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, having been involved with the narratives of judges and prosecutors, involved with sequence shifts and with predicate acts with them, and with wrongdoing, all mixed, and people tied to them, and to the all along. It's also tied to all along Route 3 that goes by the state judicial branch offices, and houses next to there also involved with my name, as the people involved with the leading up to the World Trade Center attack in the context, victims used as victim predators, where and how they're forging and switching names, where and how they're forced, tricked, hurt, persuaded to roles, self-value with the predicate acts on and off Trinity College and on and off CCSU that are inseparable from the subject, where, you know, the courts pretend that we're liars. They can't do it on paper. And they're leaving out how those people set up, how it's recorded. That's what's actually recorded. So Joe Aiello is recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with a path that comes out of Millwoods Park that goes to Griswold Street, right at that spot. Him and a former Mayor Gold are involved with judges and prosecutors with predicate acts. Now, there's two branches of government. And police. People associated with the police, like this Kerr family. Involved also with, it has something to do with, like, there's a shopping center across from Lowe's. And where Lowe's is now, on the Berlin Turnpike, it was a movie theater, and the land behind there has something to do with there's a whole bunch of people tied to a Casper family, tied to a Dingleberry and a Dewberry, also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated predicate acts with that guy with drugs crimes and medicine crimes, with sex offenders, and with his patients and criminals before they got caught, and with his roles with doctors fabricating conversations with people they don't know, and with people further tied to the ones on the sex offender registry that are also with the phenomenon of having been recorded, involved with predicate acts with the Wethersfield people who answer the phones for the police, people involved with them fabricating me into fake quotes on their police station, where I have one word of conversation with the older Mendez brother in my entire life. And the other one I only know from real brief instances, he's also involved with this. In other words, I never saw him outside of campus, outside of school my entire life. I told you about the one exception. I said it on Facebook before. See, when I bring up, these are people that have been involved with uses of exceptions and of exception nature to hide their own nature, as criminal insidious natures of their own roles with evidence racketeering, as is actually recorded. There are people involved with juries and jury selection, associated with a bunch of doctors associated with the Leahy family and with the Dr. Aziz, fabricating audio and video and fake conversations with people, his roles with drug crimes, medicine crimes, with and identity theft frauds, and physical delusions with a Judge Killian, and the others that are also recorded confirmed involved with the predicate acts of the Leahy family, fake conversations with me on and off their locations. And since I was a kid, with people involved with confessions with that. Dozens of Rick C.M. Faglione recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with dozens of other people that dozens of people at New Britain Superior Court were involved with child abuses, intercities connected, and with locations next to the schools connected, and with people associated with the corner of, even if they walk or drive by, the corner of Hangdog Lane and Highcrest School, that are further involved with O'Brien family, with the executive branch, and with prisons cliques, also involved with child abuses, and with their crimes with child offenders before they got caught, and their roles with sequence shifts with them. I needed to hide passions and emotions in relationship to that too, styles with that too, no. So we have criminally foreign influence readings of precedents and statute and of sequence originally instilled that we have as the subject that our founders left us to counter. Now we have to have mandated law followed. They forge names and switch names and pretend we should sue. So, but dishonestly, because they know they're lying to attorney generals, and they're valuing that having been done. So they're valuing informal, formal statutes and precedents, criminally foreign influence, all their defenses of that, self-valued, tactically criminally foreign influence premises treatments, sequence treatments, integrity treatments. They have to pretend other offensively. So they had to have people with fire department. There's also an inspector with the Wethersfield Fire Department who's also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated crimes with smoke, worse than extortion, torture, since before they changed the laws on that. That whole process and the transition from ACA to RICO. These are involved with the same people leading up to the World Trade Center attack, and since, with the investigators recorded involved also with Washington, D.C. Predicate acts roles and cases further tied to sequence shift proven post-dated documents had been post-dated from inside the Ninth Circuit Court, which is right next to the World Trade Center. And people in the investigations of the attack, they have roles recorded, forcing, tricking, hurting, persuading, them not even realizing, Saudis to roles with them. With all their lie progression cover-up methods, needs, you roles with which I noted is the subject. Remote uses of investigations, investigators, identity of the ground, locations, stewards, opinion natures, perception. So, when I was a kid, there are people I don't know sought me out from other different parts of town to make confessions at different times connected. Now they're demonstrating roles with sequence shifts, lie progressions, tied to with interbranch had roles with when I was in grammar school, with people that aren't even in your class, and they're writing fake things in databases. I was measured to have 12th reading at a 12th grade level when I was in a school that closed, that was down the street from me, like about the same distance as the school I went to for first grade to sixth grade, the one involved with the former mayor's daughter and son, with a vertical and horizontal database organized crime method /S. Worse than organized crime. But they have that overt criminal enterprises involved with it, with a whole bunch of people recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, roles with wrongdoing, and with identity theft frauds, falsified police reports roles, with and evidence racketeering roles with the ILO family, drugs, crimes roles with people tied to them, and as their roles with on off the parks, like on off through time connected, as people pretending to because in court you're supposed to be able to have both sides of fact treatments, but that was prevented a whole bunch of ways because they've been fabricating audio and video, and they have methods of hiding that by making it. They have to pretend others simultaneously. Every day they do that. Per self-valued roles with these tricks with the edges of parks. With these tricks with all the guys make confessions about the girls. And then they're standing there. They have a method like with these tricks with the people that aren't even in the same grade. Aren't even in the same class. In the furtherance of background. Furtherance of uses. Of way worse. Of the cover-ups. Of what they have the little kids of the interbranch and the drug cliques as the ones supposed to be against that stuff. Like the Leahy family. They have their little girl on Facebook. The ones that faked conversations with me. They have an Anthony Yagman. Other people involved, sick people with Wethersfield police through time, involved wire crimes, sequence shifts, with falsified police reports, drug crimes as the people supposed to be against that, with the houses next to the schools, involved identity theft frauds. They're attaching kids to fake locations, making allegations against people out with locations. Roles with fake, theater with locations, because they've been using the words like allegations criminally from their locations, per their roles with crime methods that are distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. The executive branch has switches names and falsifies police reports distinctly from the judicial branch, also grouped with them, but also all together. So also the executive branch and the political branch have grouped crime method /S roles. See, everyone missed the method, which is the subject. See, so they have racism, effectively, breaching screen, breaching front, tool, weapon, pretending other. It's a predicate acts delivery system method. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a police force, I'm not a criminal. It is recorded the bar itself had worse than criminal incompetence, had self-valued, criminally foreign influence, fact treatment nature roles, multi-front with the criminally foreign influence locations, areas, and states that our founders demonstrated. We need to tell that. Now, follow mandated law. That's what I'm telling you here. Get onto paper the interbranch. They pretend, oh, we don't like liars. Because then it's all see, and then they throw you into jail. Those jails are recorded, kept with the people involved with the locations crimes with them. They're involved with kept needing to hide the sequence shifts, roles with the identity of the ground locations of the serial killer's body dumping spot. Of Billy Grosso's body dumping spot /S. Per the news involved with them fabricating audio and video also. Like with the Fianza family. Right on off the State of Connecticut Judicial Branch offices. A whole bunch of people in the Britain Superior Court recorded, confessed, and demonstrated intercities involved with mayors and judges, criminally and prosecutors involved and with them with predicate acts, and with the Dillon family. Recorded, confessed, demonstrated, involved with predicate acts on my street through time, with judges and prosecutors, people associated with that. Uses of the field across the street. It has something tied to their uses of their confessions tied to the recorded roles that they're with predicate access kids from the other classrooms where God knows what they're putting in the databases of classrooms. They're exploiting the fake positive of integrity and the fake proper counters to negative in sustained ways. Where and how a breaching method knew that everyone would do that, so they could keep exploiting it. Where and how DACA and the new trade agreements left this out because they were preventing presidents / chiefs from being a quality of fact-cheating nature capable of countering what is the method / S using all identity ground locations. Names. No identities. This is how computers work. That we are being exploited. It's a database relationship that maintains self-valued roles with it. That's why we have, since before cars, this pathology of homes, of distances between them, of the identity ground location tactically denatured, specifically to cause negative value nature progressions, acts and natures, while propagating opinion natures and conviction natures of victims. Also delusions rot, making more and more real, but contained. Excuses for why there are negative value nature progressions, acts, natures. What really were our founders' intentions? So, science and human means, without technology, just with the technology that's here now, you got to be sick. In other words, even the elements under the ground, we can afford to do it. We have to agree to do it. So we have to have the right syntax. We have to have leaders that weren't involved since they were kids with predicate acts, uses of locations of the ground, where they're faking things so they could bring things before courts that were already used remotely. Former director of the FBI in his defendant capacities in a 2006 case /S, that which was ongoing at the time of my father's death. It is recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Various federal criminals and ones as his co-defendants in that case and right before it, they were also involved with the intercities predicate acts by the police forms and recorded against me, and then recorded simultaneously pretending other, leading up to the World Trade Center attack and since. And they pretended that I had been arrested or had anything to do with police. Before that never was too, and after it. Like right now, make sure I get a response for the interbranch forging and switching names. Hiding their confessions to me and others about their roles with the switching names officers, switching, fabric. Let's go.